She stormed into the building like she owned the place. Heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, designer bag slung over her arm, and an air of arrogance so thick it felt like the temperature in the lobby dropped a few degrees. Veronica Langston had made up her mind. This so-called tenant had overstayed his welcome, and she was going to make sure he was gone by the end of the day. Reaching the apartment door, she didn't bother knocking politely. She pounded 3 times, each strike echoing through the quiet hallway. A moment later, the door opened, revealing a man who looked unimpressed. "Can I help you?" His voice was calm, measured, completely unshaken by the hostility radiating from her. Veronica's lips curled into a tight, forced smile. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Veronica Langston, the new owner of this building." She lifted her chin, studying the man as if he were beneath her. "I've reviewed the tenant records, and it seems your lease has long expired. I'm here to inform you that you have exactly 24 hours to vacate the premises." The man tilted his head, eyes narrowing slightly. "That so?" "Yes," she said, her voice clipped. "And let me be clear, I will not tolerate squatters." He exhaled slowly, as if debating whether to laugh. "Squatter? Yes, I don't know how you got away with staying here rent-free, but that ends now." She pulled out a neatly typed eviction notice and pressed it into his chest. 24 hours. No negotiations. For the first time since opening the door, the man let out a small chuckle. It was low, deep, almost amused. He stepped aside and gestured toward the apartment. "Come in." Veronica hesitated. This was not the reaction she expected. "I insist," he added, voice smooth but firm. Curiosity got the best of her, and she stepped inside. The apartment was immaculate, modern, sleek, every inch of it screamed money. Not the kind of place some broke tenant would be squatting in. No. This was something else entirely. "Nice, isn't it?" the man mused, closing the door behind her. "Odd decor choice for a rental," she scoffed. "That's because it's not a rental." Veronica's eyebrows knitted together. "Excuse me?" The man moved past her, strolling into the open-concept kitchen, pouring himself a glass of water. "You seem like the type who does her research. Tell me, Veronica, how much did you pay for this building?" She blinked at the sudden change in conversation. "That's none of your concern." He took a slow sip before setting the glass down. "I bet it was a steal, wasn't it? Some loophole in an auction, maybe a foreclosure deal? Let me guess, you saw an opportunity, figured you could flip it, jack up the rent, and make a fortune." Her silence spoke volumes. The man smirked. "What you don't know is that this building was never meant to be sold." Her patience was running thin. "Listen, I don't care what you think. The paperwork is legal, and as of last week, I hold the deed. So, unless you plan on cutting me a check for the property, you're out." Finally, he leaned in, resting his hands on the marble countertop between them. His eyes locked onto hers with a quiet intensity. "Veronica, let me introduce myself properly. My name is James Carter." The name sent a chill down her spine. James Carter. Her lips parted slightly, as if trying to find words, but none came. "You recognize it, don't you?" His voice was eerily calm. "You should. Because every single document you signed, every paper you reviewed, my name was on it." Her breath hitched. "That's impossible." "Is it?" He reached into a nearby drawer, pulled out a folder, and slid it across the counter. "Go ahead. Take a look." Hands slightly trembling, she flipped it open. Title deeds, tax records, legal documents, everything clear as day. Owner, James Carter. She felt the blood drain from her face. But I bought this building." James leaned back, arms crossed. "No. What you bought was a scam. A fraudulent sale set up by people who had no legal claim to this place. And you? You just walked right into it, thinking you could bully your way to the top. Veronica stumbled back, her mind racing. This isn't possible. I have lawyers. And they failed you, James said simply. Because this property was never for sale. What you have is a worthless piece of paper. I've already spoken to my legal team. Fraud charges are being filed as we speak. Your accounts? They'll be frozen by the end of the day. The investors you swindled to get the money? They'll be knocking at your door soon. She swallowed hard. You're lying. James reached for his phone, tapped a few buttons, then turned the screen toward her. A live news alert popped up. Breaking, real estate fraud scandal unfolds, illegal sale of Carter property exposed. Her knees buckled. You walked in here thinking you owned this place, James said, his voice quieter now, almost pitying. But you never did. And now? You've lost everything. Tears welled in her eyes. Please, there has to be something I can do. James studied her for a long moment before shaking his head. You made your bed, Veronica. Now lie in it. As she stumbled out of the apartment, her world crumbling, James closed the door behind her. A quiet, satisfied smile played on his lips. Some people learn the hard way. And Veronica Langston? She had just learned the hardest lesson of all. Veronica stumbled out of the building, her heels clicking unevenly against the pavement as she clutched her phone with trembling hands. She needed to make calls. Her lawyers, her financial advisor, someone had to fix this. But as she scrolled through her contacts, her stomach twisted into knots. Every call went straight to voicemail. Then, a new notification flashed across her screen. Bank alert, account frozen, pending investigation. Her breath caught. She tapped furiously, trying to access her funds, but the app only returned an error message. Panic surged through her veins. This couldn't be happening. Her car was parked just across the street, a sleek, imported luxury vehicle that had always been a symbol of her power, her success. But when she approached, a tow truck was already there, the driver securing the final straps around the tires. Hey! What do you think you're doing? She snapped, rushing forward. The driver barely looked at her as he checked his clipboard. Repossession order, ma'am. This vehicle is being seized due to outstanding debts. Her chest tightened. That's impossible. But then she remembered. The financing. The investors. Everything had been built on borrowed money, deals that were now unraveling. A laugh, sharp, cruel, echoed from nearby. Veronica turned to see a familiar face leaning against a black car, arms crossed. Rebecca Howard. Well, Rebecca mused, shaking her head. The Queen falls. Veronica felt her blood turn cold. You. Me, Rebecca confirmed. Did you really think you were the only one looking at that building? Unlike you, I did my research. The moment I saw the sale go through, I knew something was off. And now, thanks to your little stunt, I made a few calls, and tipped off the authorities. Looks like I was right. Veronica's nails dug into her palms. You set me up. Rebecca smirked. No, sweetheart. You set yourself up. I just sat back and watched. At that moment, her phone rang. One of her investors. For a second, she hesitated before answering. You lied to us, Veronica, the voice on the other end growled. You'd better have an explanation, or we're pressing charges. The call ended. Her stomach churned. Everything was crumbling.